Best record in the NBA, 60 wins. What does it mean? I'll go first. I think it means a lot. I think it means that they're fulfilling their destiny. And I say this without any sarcasm or any. It's not a setup. I think that it's a sign that they are taking this year seriously, that they are you have the feel of a wire-to-wire NBA champion, that this is what they should be because they're the best team in the league and they've come of age and this is their time. And so they should be the best team in the league on day one. They should be the best team in the league on the last day. And that's that. It should be one of those teams, one of those seasons, not 50 wins, 60 wins, and not the number one seed in the East, the number one seed in the NBA. The road to the championship goes through Boston. 60 wins, number one seed. They do it with 2 weeks to go. Wire-to-wire best team in the league. That's what I think they are. That's what I think they should be. And so they've checked that box, and they're on the road to being that team. And I think that certainly we can pick apart some minor flaws or maybe major flaws, and we will definitely do so and continue to do so. But I think on balance that this is the best team in the league, and they're showing it, and they showed fewer lapses this year than they have in the past. Fewer, which doesn't mean none, but fewer. And I think that in years past, you could look at stretches of the season or the way that they played in certain games or their overall record or their overall seeding and say they're not quite there. This year, you can't do that. And I thought going into the year, this should be that kind of team. They are that kind of team. And so that's what I think. I think it's pretty much all good is what I think. Maz?
Yes. Yeah, look, again, coming into the year, I said this point blank early on. You're going to win 60 games or more. You got to get into the 60s. I thought their talent level was that good. I thought they were completely loaded, stacked, best starting five in the league. None of that has changed. To this point, again, little blips in terms of health, but nothing got in their way. They stayed relatively focused. In fact, I would say they stayed focused. I would even say relatively. A couple lapses here and there, but nobody goes through 82-0. And so, again, they're going to finish with, call it 63, 64 wins. They might lose a couple here down the stretch. Not that it matters. The max they're going to get is 66. So they're coming in where they should, which is at the top of the heap, 100%. So, and I think it's really important to do that during the regular season when you haven't won a title.
Yes, right. LeBron can play with his food as much as he wants. The Celtics? Don't you think that they need, they're not that team.
No.
Yet if they start winning championships, they can be that team.
Correct. Like you got to get one under your belt first, and then you say, okay, now we know how to do it. They don't know how to do it yet, or at least they haven't shown that they've been able to do it the other way, and most teams can't for their first title. They need, the help of everything they can get, including home court. So they've guaranteed home court throughout the postseason. They've taken care of business. 60 wins is a huge number in that league. Huge.
It's a good number.
Again, there are only, 2 or 3 teams in history that have gotten into 70s. So really the great teams get in the 60s. And the championship caliber teams get into that, at least for the first one. So from that standpoint, for the regular season, I give them an A. I don't give them an A+, because I think there were a couple of small things that went wrong along the way. It wasn't perfect. But again, that's rare. So, for the regular season, A. Good regular season.
So, I say all that, what I just said from the bottom of my heart. 617-779-0985. You want to discuss? We can discuss. Do you want the yeah but?
Sure.
Well, I'll just ask you, Maz. Do you think they're a championship team? Do you think they're going to win it all this year?
No.
Why not?
So, again, and I have felt this way, by the way, let me just tell you this. I have felt this way for a few weeks because some of these finishes at the end of the game have really kind of shaken my faith in what they're going to do against good teams. So if you're asking me today, and if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, you had asked me a month and a half ago, I would tell you that I'm taking the field. I think that when they get to the game in Denver is the one that really shook me. In fact, both games with Denver have shaken me because I looked at those two games, and I've said this to you in every sport, I think since the time we came on the air almost 15 years ago. I am a big believer in setting the pace, setting the tempo, deciding how the game is going to be played. I think the great teams do that. I think the great teams dictate what type of game it's going to be when they take the floor or the field on that night. I think the great teams, the championship teams, do that. They force you to play their style. And the Celtics can do that against inferior teams. When they play someone that has the same kind of talent or better grit than them or more toughness or better coaching or some combination thereof, I think that those teams are able to exert their will on the Celtics more than the other way around. And those two Denver games shook me because I saw Denver, and Denver has the best player in the league. I saw Denver dictate the pace and the tempo, and the Celtics basically scored in the low 100s in both of those games. And so I think eventually they're going to run into someone that does that to them. Now, I don't think it's going to be in the East. It's a possibility that that team comes in the East because I still think Miami could give them a handful. I just think that the style of play against Miami concerns me a little bit. Frankly, I think the Celtics are soft. So I think that a team wants to get physical with them and push them around and wants to make the game a little bit more of a street fight is going to give them a challenge. So between that, Denver lurking in the West, I don't think you make it all the way through being as what Joe Murray would call a front-running team and stay out in front and beat everybody by 15 every night. I don't think you win championships that way.
We'll get to Joe in a minute. I have them winning the championship. If we're going to bet it or pick it, I'd have them winning the championship. But I do have pause, and I have pause because I feel like the NBA has changed a little bit. Where the NBA that I've always known is the best team wins. Best team wins. Best player, best team, home court. Right? It's like it's
almost automatic.
Yeah, it's just always been a predictable league and a pretty predictable sport. And most of our lifetime, the best player in the dominant team wins the most games, wins the championship, and it's just there's a chalk nature to the NBA. In the past, it's kind of changed. Would it surprise you? Well, let's just go with the number one overall seed. Home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Home court wins, right? The last team to be the number one seed in the NBA and win a championship was 7 years ago. The Warriors, the 16-17 Warriors. And because all the years blend together to me, that's the Steph Curry Durant Warriors, right?
Correct. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you take out Steph Curry in that Warriors team, the last team to have the league's best record and win a championship was a full decade ago. The 2013-14 San Antonio Spurs. Okay, so no one's done it in 7 years. There was a stretch there then from 2013 through 2017 where the Spurs, Warriors did it 3 out of 4 years. And if I go back to my childhood and I go back and look at it, it's like the 86 Celtics had the best record. They won the championship. Jordan's Bulls had the best record. They won the championship. Duncan's Spurs had the best record. They won the championship. It's like it just feels like it was a chalk nature to that, and it doesn't exist anymore for some reason. I used to think 60 wins was sort of like a line of demarcation. You got to 60 wins, that was it. You look at 60-win teams, it's the same thing. The last 60-win team to win a championship was that 2017 Warriors team. And again, the last 60-win team to win a championship outside of Steph Curry was, again, the Spurs in 2013, 2014. And I'll go back further if you like. But just those are the last 10 years. Nice round number. 10 years, last 10 60-win teams. So in that sample, you've had teams like the Rockets, the James Harden Rockets, win 60-plus games, have the number one overall seed. You've had the Booker Suns, and I don't know how else to refer to those. The Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul Suns have 60-plus wins, be the number one seed, and not win a championship. The Bucks, who have won a championship, but not in the year that they won 60 games or had the number one seed. The Bucks have had the number one seed 3 times. They didn't get to the finals any of those 3 years. The year they went to the finals, they weren't a 1 seed and they weren't 60 wins. So it's sort of like this is something about the league, or there's something about these teams that, again, I don't consider the Suns to be a winning team. James Harden is a big fat loser. I think even though the Bucks have pushed through, they are not like one of these all-time teams, not even close. They're like more like a regular season kind of fraud team, really, when you think about it. And because I'm on a higher plane than you people, I can say that about my team. I can call it for what it is. I think the Bucks championship was lucky. But I guess this is all a long way of saying, are the Celtics closer to those teams? Or are the Celtics closer to the teams, the Steph Curry Warriors or the Duncan Spurs or the Jordan Bulls, or those teams that are the best and prove it in the postseason? What are they closer to?
The first thing.
Are they are they like the Sun? Are they a current incarnation of the Suns or the Rockets? Or, again, kind of the Bucks, even though they won? You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. This is what concerns me. Again, look, I believe even in the NBA, and I say that because I grew up with all the same metrics that you did, that the team that typically had the best record in the league had the best player. They took care of business back then for whatever reason. And again, I don't mean to say go with the old days, because I really don't give a rat's ass. But the bottom line is I think that the regular season as a whole was taken more seriously. So it probably meant a little bit more.
And I think the home road thing, the home court in the playoffs, meant more than it does now.
Huge. So, which again is what made the regular season more important. The teams took it seriously. So they knew they had to have home court. They knew they could hold serve in their home court. And no matter who they played, they would win if it came to that for the most part. I think that has also changed. So now that said, I want the Celtics to have it because I want them to have every advantage that they, if you say to me they're going to win a championship, if I'm them, what I would say to them is go get home court, do all the things you're supposed to do. It increases your chances, which I do believe. But I think that some of these teams now, between load management and everything else, are willing to just sacrifice the regular season.
Just long story short, 60 wins, best overall record in the league, home court throughout the playoffs. The road to the championship goes through Boston. Yep, check. That's what they should be. That's what they are. It's their first step on the way to a championship. We should all feel good about it. You all should feel good about it as Celtics fans. But then you look at it, you say, the number one seeds and 60-win teams don't win anymore. So what are you? Are you one of those? Are you just another in the long line of these recent 60-win teams, number one teams, that don't win the postseason, that don't go all the way? Are you worried about that? Celtics for the championship, Maz, you in or out?
Out.